and welcome to the Vault XL. This commentary is pertaining to Brian C. Kohlberger. His attorneys want most of the evidence thrown out. They're arguing the IGG search of DNA were his rights violated. His attorneys feel like his Fourth Amendment rights were violated by that search through the ancestry database. We're going to talk about all that here shortly, but we're going to go to my community page, and I'm going to give you the results of the polls that I asked pertaining to this latest information. Should the judge rule to throw out the evidence in Brian Kohlberger's case? 100% said no. Were Brian Kohlberger's Fourth Amendment rights violated with IGG search for DNA? 100% says no. Should police have conducted a search warrant for Brian Kohlberger's before he traveled to Pennsylvania? 100% said yes. Now, I had asked another question similar to the searches and evidentiary material. And I don't know if maybe some of you misunderstood the question. So we're going to go over that one right quick. Wait 1 second, everybody. Pulling it up. And please take my polls pertaining to the migrant situation. I have a few questions on my community page pertaining to that. I said 14 hours ago, Brian C. Kohlberger's lawyers are trying to get evidence thrown out. Geez, this lady won't give up. So 68% of you agree. So do you all know what you were answering to? 68% of you agreed that the evidence should be thrown out. And that was 19 votes. 21% disagree, 11% unsure. I don't know if some of you didn't understand the question. What I'm asking you is, do you basically agree the evidence should be thrown out? And 68% of you said yes. But yet you go back to my poll today, only 2 or 3 of you voted and you felt 100% that it shouldn't be thrown out. So I don't know if you all didn't understand the question from yesterday. Let's get down to business. If you'd like to donate to this great network, $BeganG129 Cash App. Stickers and chats are welcome during the live stream. This is the latest developments pertaining to Brian C. Kohlberger, who has been accused of unaliving 4 college students in Moscow, Idaho.
This morning, defense attorneys for Brian Kohlberger back in a Boise, Idaho courtroom, contesting what they say was excessive police force during his arrest and asking the judge to throw out key evidence to prosecutors.
There was simply no reason to bash the doors in momentarily after yelling from their barricades.
Kohlberger's lawyers say police raided his parents' Pennsylvania home in December of 2022, unannounced, without giving Kohlberger a chance to surrender himself.
It's not typical that the police simply don't knock and announce at all. They usually give the person the opportunity to surrender.
The judge explaining why such force may have been necessary.
There's 2 issues. There's officer safety. There's also destruction of evidence concerns.
But Kohlberger's lawyers firing back.
The only thing they knew is that he's walking around from room to room and that he has some kitchen gloves in.
That's not all they knew, but I won't go into the details.
The defense arguing that investigators were intentionally misleading in obtaining search warrants and that the entire investigation has been shrouded in secrecy.
Let me interject here. I had this question years ago pertaining to the search warrants exacted. What I never could understand is, why would you all allow him to travel all the way to Pennsylvania and then search his parents' house? That made no sense to me. He got pulled over 2 times, and yet you all say it had nothing to do with him being investigated for these said crimes in Idaho. Well, you got a make on the car. His name came up in the search once the cop in Washington got the information from Moscow about the 4 young people unalived, and that they were looking for a white Elantra. So when that one cop found that car on the university property at the apartment complex, that got the ball rolling to start, searching that car, because it fit the description of a car leaving the area. Okay. So one thing begets another. When you did the search of the car, and you saw the car on the property, and then you started running the tags and all of that, and then you compared it to whatever you found who owned the car, which would have been Brian Kohlberger, and he fit the description of what the girl said the guy looked like walking by her in the house. I don't understand why you all weren't searching garbage cans, surveying him before he went to Pennsylvania. That's why I'm confused. Why wait until he gets all the way there? That's a long wait. He could have not even returned. So if you all thought he could be a possible suspect, why not have gone to the judge and say, hey, this guy fits the description of a guy that walked by the girl's room while exiting the house. We have information that a car was in the area, a white Elantra or a white whatever, Hyundai. He happens to have one. He lives close proximity, just 15 minutes away. That's not far, although it's another state. I don't understand why you all didn't search his home, the garbage can, trash bin outside, or are we going to hear that later in trial? Help me understand. Because so far right now, what they're arguing, I'm not hearing. So I'm confused why you all didn't exact a search before he left school.
Is a situation where this identification was done in complete secret behind closed doors.
Kohlberger is charged with 4 counts of murder in the deaths of Ethan Shapeman, Xana Kernodle, Madison Mogan, and Kaylee Gonzalez, who were stabbed in an off-campus home near the University of Idaho campus. A not guilty plea has been entered on his behalf. No murder weapon was ever found, so prosecutors dug into Kohlberger's online history and requested details on whether he had Amazon searches pertaining to knives to try and bolster their case.
The government cannot seize the haystack to look for a needle, and there is undisputed privacy interest in cell phone data.
But prosecutors say the warrants were perfectly within accepted legal bounds.
All of these warrants were not general warrants. They were all sufficiently particular.
Investigators say they used genetic genealogy to match Kohlberger's DNA to the DNA authorities say was found on the bottom snap of a knife sheath at the crime scene. A tactic Kohlberger's lawyers...
Sorry about that, everybody. There was a little bit of buffering. Let's go back a little bit.
Getting what's called some limiting instructions, meaning that the evidence will come in at the time of trial, but it will come in with some instructions by the judge.
The judge still has to rule on the evidence. Here's the question: will any of it be suppressed? And if so, which parts? The next hearing for the case is set for April 3rd. Zoreen Shah, ABC News, Los Angeles.
3rd. This case is just going on and on because of this crybaby lawyer who's a millionaire at this point. I've discussed her salary with you all before on the network. She was specifically chosen to represent him because it could be a death penalty case, and not every trial attorney is experienced to work in a death penalty case. So they chose this blonde-haired lady, and she's making a lot of money. Don't get it twisted. She's making a lot of money to represent Brian C. Kohlberger. And all she has done is whine and whine and whine. And this case should have been over with by now. This is just, him getting a chance to, be seen in court and nod and, pretend he's engaging in what they're saying. It's just for him to relive everything that happened from the time he sat on Washington soil, stalking these kids in Idaho up until the moment he unalived them. And that's my take on this nonsense. He's getting a jolt out of going to court, dressing up, sitting in there, because he doesn't have anything else to do. So the longer he prolongs, the more time he gets to just revel in the fame of it all, people talking about him, these poor parents having to go to court, Kaylee's parents attended court the other day, but naturally they could not hear this information that was in court about the evidence. Mainly his attorneys want most of the evidence tossed because they feel like his Fourth Amendment right was violated. There was no reason for the search for the genealogy database, but they were looking for a killer. So my thing is, I feel like there's no law. Is there a law that says you can't check the database to try to hunt down a killer? If so, hell, bring me a receipt. Enlighten me. That's what they do. They investigate, just like they were saying on court TV. It's called an investigation. You take one tiny step, which leads to another step, which leads to another step. It's called an investigation. He left behind DNA on the sheath. He drove his car from the crime scene. So we'll start with the car then. Your car was in the area. A car that looks like your car was in the area. So see, you start there. And then two, you don't know what else has been seen and said. You don't know how many other people will testify to say, I saw this guy walking around. I saw this guy looking like he was walking a dog. See, you don't know. Because we don't even know who all the witnesses are. And they're not telling everything as to protect whomever has something to say pertaining to this crime. And that's what we've learned with a lot of trials. You thought you knew everything, but you can't possibly know everything because the state is not going to put all their cards on the table. But for all we know, we have people who may have seen him walking in the area, lurking about, driving around, sitting parked behind that building that sat next to the house. He could have been sitting up there stalking and gawking. And we're also going to learn that there is information in his phone where he stalked the girls. So I always said that anyway. Even if they had no DNA, his phone was going to tell the story. That he'd been watching, stalking, probably got thousands of their pictures downloaded. Thousands of times he's gone to the pages of one of the girls or all of the girls looking and lurking. He's going to have something in that phone because he's been to the house at least 10 times. So you don't know anybody over there on that street. You don't know anybody over there in Moscow. What are you doing over there? Now, yes, it's a free country. You're entitled to go anywhere you want to go. Morning, noon, or night. You can ride by, park your car wherever you want. But when you're talking about 4 people dead, brutally murdered, your phone's pinging at the location. Your phone's pinging in the general location. You just so happen to turn your phone off before allegedly going there. Then you ride back home and turn your phone back on. Why? But you were stargazing. Well, then you didn't need to keep turning your phone on and off if you were stargazing. This is a bunch of nonsense. The judge is basically letting the defense know. No. Not throwing out anything. We're not throwing out anything. Hello, everybody. One second, everybody. Just going down my page with the videos pertaining to this case. Once again, check the polls, everybody. Check the polls. Here are the polls pertaining to Brian KOHBERGER. Most of you feel like the evidence should not be thrown out. Should they have conducted a search before he went to Pennsylvania? 81% says yes, 19% says no. Who the hell voted no? Man, some of y'all are weird. Just damn weird. And check out Vinnie Politan's video. It's a very good video. I watched it last night pertaining to this case. Very good information. Basically, they're discussing the IGG, the DNA information, were his rights violated. And then you also hear about court kicking in the doors and all of that kind of stuff.
Things thinking over his decision on what evidence to include in the trial for the man who is accused of killing 4 University of Idaho students. That suspect, Brian Kohberger, was back in court today for a second time this week. The students were found stabbed to death in a home just off campus in November of 2022. Their families have now been waiting for more than 2 years for a trial to begin. After 3 days of arguments, the judge in the Kohberger case must now decide whether to allow key DNA evidence to be presented at his murder trial. The defense had argued police should have secured a search warrant before detectives analyzed DNA collected from the crime scene and before they gathered and tested items out of Kohberger's trash at his Pennsylvania home. The state does not believe collection of evidence at the crime scene or in the weeks that followed violated any of Kohberger's rights.
Particularity requirements objective is that necessary searches should be as limited as possible. A search warrant must be particular enough so that as to what is taken, nothing is left to the discretion of the officer executing the warrant.
All of these warrants were not general warrants. They were all sufficiently particular. They were specific to the type, each one of them listed that they were specific to the type of crime, the location, and all but one of them had temporal limitations.
The judge says that he will be taking all of those arguments from the week into consideration before issuing his final ruling.
Okay, so we are waiting. This is still a headache because it's just, as they said, 2 years plus since the children were unalived. And it's ridiculous. Let's see what they have to say here in this one here about the roommate. I don't think this was a part of my, this wasn't a part of my lineup, but we're gonna go ahead and listen to it.
In a Boise courtroom as Brian Kohberger's defense team tries to paint the investigation as flawed and shrouded in secrecy in an effort to get key evidence thrown out.
This is a situation where this identification was done in complete secret behind closed doors.
The former PhD student accused of stabbing 4 University of Idaho students to death in an off-campus home, while his lead defense attorney, Ann Taylor, reveals details of a surviving roommate's interview with authorities in the aftermath of the gruesome quadruple homicide.
There are 2 references to not remembering. A couple of days later, there's the 3rd interview, and there's references to
Don't worry about it, lover.
Being drunk, a statement, I don't know any of it. Like half the stuff. I don't know if it's a dream or if it's real. And credibility is really, really important when that person is relied on in the investigation.
Taylor added the roommate told police she had been drinking and that she also heard one of the victims come up and down the stairs during the time of the attack.
They know that fact is wrong.
Taylor says that information was never provided to the judge at the time, laying the groundwork for her to question the beginning of the investigation and collection of evidence, including DNA that authorities say was found on the button snap of a knife sheath at the crime scene. Authorities using investigative genetic genealogy to link Kohberger to the crime, a tactic Taylor has long argued is flawed.
Investigative genetic genealogy, or IGG, is the process by which law enforcement will take a sample of DNA and initially probably run it through what's called CODIS, a federal criminal database. But if there's no hit there, then law enforcement can take that DNA to a genetic genealogy database and see if they can take information from that database to see if that sample is related to someone.
Kohberger's DNA was linked.
Let's go. Well, Annie, seems like they got a pretty good hit, wouldn't you say, of your client? Someone asked the chat, how do you all feel about this IGG being? The thing about it is it's free. They didn't have to go, break in somebody's house and plan anything or gather anything from somebody in an illegal search. It's a free database. So why is it a problem that the police went into the database? You don't have a law about it, to my knowledge, so what's the problem? It's free. And the point is, from the database, it stated that whoever the killer is the father is linked to the database. So his father came up as, you know, a linkage. And he only had one son, which is Brian. So what's the problem? I don't understand what's the problem. Now you're crying about the phone, data. Well, that's what they do in investigation, Annie. One thing begets another. Because as I said, it started with the car, white Elantra, which piqued the interest of a cop in Pullum. And he happened to have a white Elantra, which made him run the tags. And so one thing begat another. As I said before, they should have searched in Pullum, in my opinion. Watched him in Pullum. I don't know if they did or not. I'm still, you know, trying to understand all of this, you know, going over to Pennsylvania, searching the parents' house, as you see here. That's his parents' house in Pennsylvania. He should have been surveyed in Washington. DNA should have been extracted from somewhere in Washington, from his house, apartment, whatever. And if they were going by the description from that roommate of a guy with bushy eyebrows walking by her, exiting the house, then why not get a search warrant? All this is confusing to me. But the IGG, I don't see what's wrong with using the database. It's a free database. So the police decided to use the database, and it came back a linkage to Brian Kohlberger. So what's the problem? They knocked all the pins down, and all roads led back to Brian Kohlberger, not anybody else in any other parts of the United States. And just so happened, he's a student at a college in a neighboring state, 15 minutes away from the house. Now, what are the odds of that? You could say, oh, that's circumstantial. Well, the DNA doesn't say circumstantial because DNA isn't circumstantial. What they gather from the Brian Kohlberger, what's the problem? The father only has one son. Unless there's another doppelganger out here with similar DNA to Brian Kohlberger, I'm just saying. And then naturally, they're going to do their own direct search of DNA from the defendant instead of just using the IGG. They'll just take an exact sample from Brian Kohlberger. It's nonsense.
Was later matched to trash pulled from the Pennsylvania neighborhood where he was with his parents when arrested. Kohlberger's lawyers, who say he is innocent, accuse the FBI of not having a warrant to work with the trash collection company.
I think it is different when you have the FBI telling the trash man what to do.
An individual has no expectation of privacy as to what they throw into the trash. So law enforcement wouldn't need to get a warrant to check what they call as an abandonment sample.
The prosecution countering, saying no rights were violated and that they relayed the evidence based on what they knew at the time.
And there is nothing obtained that was obtained in violation of any of the defendant's constitutional rights. The defendant has wholly failed to establish a single false statement or omission without which the magistrate would not have found probable cause.
The proceedings private for most of the first day. Cameras turned back on briefly, and the family of Kaylee Gonzalez forced to watch a live stream in the courthouse. Hearings will continue.
The thing people don't seem to understand about a case is the obvious. The trial hasn't even started yet. So you don't know what the state has. And the state does not have to put all their cards on the table as to preserve the investigation, as to preserve its witnesses and its expert witnesses. We also get information that the defense is worried about the expert witnesses and don't want them to testify. And also, once again, they want most of the evidence thrown out, and they want. But as I just said, this is just preliminary information coming out, and the state is not going to put all their cards on the table. For all we know, there is more blood left somewhere. We haven't heard that yet because they're arguing this touch DNA. And my thing is, you don't know what else they have. You don't know what other witnesses they have. Hey, I've seen this guy hanging around. You don't know what's in his data, what he's put in his phone, any notes he took. See, you don't know all that. We don't know what the state has. All we know is they are arguing these points to try to get this man off. Trying to get this man off. That's what they're trying to do, is get him off. But like I said, common sense would tell you he has left something behind. He could have left hair behind when the girls are fighting, grabbing your shirt, grabbing a sweatshirt. You're fighting for your life, so you're grabbing onto the person. You don't know what's under the victim's fingernails. Duh. You have no idea. Hair, transference of hair. Both girls had long hair. So you don't know what he took from the crime scene. That's what people don't seem to understand about crimes. You take things from a crime scene. You take things to a crime scene. You slough off dead skin cells, fingerprints. He possibly cut himself. We have heard this many times with people who stab other people a numerous amount of times. He stabbed 4 people to death. You want us to believe he didn't stab himself? He didn't cut himself? Because the knife becomes slippery, entering, inside of a person's body, back and forth, there's the propensity for you to stab yourself, cut yourself. He could have cut himself, all right? Could have cut himself and stabbed 4 people to death. Hell yeah, he could have cut himself. And we've heard many suspects have cut themselves. So then you got to ask that question. Did he have any cut wounds on his hand, on his wrist? I mean, if you thought he did from that infamous video where he's pulled over by the police, some of you, zoomed in on a picture of his wrist and you thought maybe he cut himself. He's used a nice sized knife. He could have cut himself. So then you got to wait to see if they show us photographs of his wrists, his arms, his fingers, that they found fresh wounds on his person. See, we don't know. So that's why I said there's a whole lot to evidentiary material that is not going to be revealed. The district attorney decides what he or she wants to reveal to the public pertaining to the information. They're not going to tell you everything. Yeah, they left blood. Yeah, they cut themselves. Yeah, we got Pookie Ray Ray saying they seen him over there hanging about. He's been over there 10 times. You think somebody didn't notice that car sitting on the street, parking on the street? For all we know, he got out of his car. He could have parked his car at the end of the street, around the corner, pretended like he was taking a walk, walked up and down the block. It's an area filled with young people. He's still young. It's no crime in walking. Can't tell a person they can't walk on the street. He could have walked up the street, case the place out, count the cars, watch to see who's coming and going. And that's something you believe he had a particular victim in mind. I always question the information about Kaylee leaving, had got a new car. I finally learned, I guess from the parents, whatever, that she was visiting. I never knew that at first because everybody was, gossiping about so much. You didn't know what to believe. And I didn't jump on this case thinking anybody affiliated with the kids did it because I didn't know. And I never pointed fingers. And I'm glad I didn't, because look at all the havoc wreaked by everybody accusing her ex-boyfriend and somebody standing at the food truck, all that old nonsense, because you're not supposed to be, assuming somebody did something when you don't know. But we as humans, we do make assumptions, but I didn't. I made a vow I wouldn't, and I kept my word. I never accused anybody of killing these kids because it was too many kids to accuse anybody. And as I've said before, when you're dealing with 4 people dead, you can't say who killed them. You're talking about 4 different lives, 4 sets of friendships. You don't know who knew these kids, who they hung with, who liked them, who they didn't like. There's no way I could say, oh yeah, that guy did it. This guy did it. Oh, the neighbor did it. You all pointed the finger at every fucking body on the planet. From the food truck guy to Kaylee's ex-boyfriend, the guy who spoke out, that's the chef, then the creepy guy next door who had to give his testimony and kept talking to the news. Everybody thought he was creepy because he was talking too much. And then in the end, guess what? None of those people were arrested. Some creepy guy from Washington State is the suspect, alleged suspect. Because that's the point. You didn't know. How could you know? These kids were surrounded by numerous people in the could say who unalived them. That's why it's called an investigation. You investigate. You investigate the children, their friends, their friendships, their enemies, their neighbors, the school, their jobs, their courtships, and then you start knocking the pins down. As they always say, you work your way from inside to out. You start with anybody that knows the victims, anybody they came in contact with, any disagreements, any arguments, bad blood. You work your way out. So Kohlberger is the out. And I do believe he did it. Just because it's just that one little touch of DNA, you can't downplay it. You can't say, well, it don't exist because it ain't a whole lot of evidence. You don't know what they got because the state does not have to tell us. And in the end, this could be the only major evidence they have. So the case, they'll have to just prove their case. That's their job. As they say, the burden is on the state to prove Kohlberger unalive these 4 young people.
Continue today. The Gonzalez family is hoping they will be allowed into the courtroom today. And keep in mind that trial is still slated to start in August. Kana Whitworth, ABC News, Los Angeles.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. The state has enough on him. You can believe that. He left a blueprint going around the place last count 10 times. Why would you be going to someone's house 10 times, but you didn't visit them? You didn't knock on the door. You're looking for something. You understand what I'm saying? You're looking for something. You go by somebody's house 10 times. You go by a street 10 times. Even on a search, somebody's going to say if they found your phone. Well, you was over here 10 times. What were you looking for? Who were you visiting? Your car sat still. Your phone sat still for 15 minutes, 20 minutes. That's even in the affidavit. How long the damn phone sat in a location? Come on now. You don't know anybody over there on that street. You don't know anybody at that house. You don't know anybody over there in Moscow. What are you doing over there? Free country, yes, but still, once you're being investigated, you have to explain yourself. So we go from all this, I didn't do it. Oh, I was stargazing. So he knew he had to put himself outside that morning. Well, they got me. They got my phone records. So now I got to make up something, okay? I got to make up something. So I got to say, yeah, I was stargazing. I'm outside. So see, whenever they start changing the version, you already know it's suspect. First you didn't do it. Now you're outside stargazing. Well, which is it? So you're stargazing all of a sudden because your phone puts you there in the vicinity of the house. And yes, he allegedly returned back that morning. So what are you doing back there? Not just in that area, but there at that address. Why would you be at that address at 9 o'clock in the morning? After 9 o'clock. 9:10 to be specific. Hello, Sue. Why would you be at this house with dead people in it after 9 a.m.? And he sat there for about 15, 20 minutes or so. But yet you live 15 minutes away in another state and you're sitting outside of a house with dead people in it. I'm just saying. Make it make sense. You can't even explain that logically in court. Because 9 o'clock on a Sunday morning, most people are asleep. Most young people are knocked out, sleep, unless they have a job to go to. And most young people party on the weekend. So make it make sense. These kids are out. They've got proof they were out. They've got them at bars, food trucks, and then returning home. And you, a stranger to these kids, allegedly, Don't know these kids, don't know the neighbors on the street. You weren't friends with the kids. You weren't friends with anybody friends with them. You weren't friends with anybody that lived on the street or in the general area of the house, of the town. But at 9 o'clock in the morning, you're sitting outside this house with dead people in the house. And I'm sure it's confirmed after 9 a.m., all parties were dead, except for the 2 surviving roommates. Make it make sense. You can't make that make no sense. Well, what are you doing there, sir? They got it wrong. So you were still stargazing at 9 a.m.? So I always tell people, it's the little things that you can't explain. So he can jump and change his version. Well, I was outside. Yes, I was. I was out stargazing. Okay, you got me. I was out stargazing, but I wasn't over there at that house. And you've got the data wrong on the pinging from the cell towers, because they say, the cell towers can get it wrong. They can give a general description on a person's phone that his phone could have easily pinged off of a cell tower that connects to their cell tower, or their data rather. Okay, cool. So we got a cell tower that's serving you in Washington and their house. I want you all to think about that. So that's going to be your defense. The cell tower also works on your phone in Washington, 15 minutes away. Could be. So then you got to now trace the radius of the cell tower to say his phone pinged all the way in Washington on the same tower as their phone pinging off the same cell tower. I'm just saying. I'm not here to argue. I'm just asking. Okay, so let's scratch that. We're going to go back to what I just said. What the hell were you doing outside that damn house? And for all we know, there is video surveillance of your dumb ass sitting out there. Ting, ting, ting. Because the house next door where they heard the moaning and the crying, you don't think there's visual with the doorbell camera? See, that's where you fucked up. Doorbell cameras. You don't know how many people had doorbell cameras in the general area of those kids' house, the neighbors' houses, down the street, their houses, round the corner, their doorbell cameras. All they have to do is go house to house and ask the people, can I see your doorbell camera, please, between these hours? See, you don't even know that there's several people who have doorbell cameras of Brian Kohlberger driving by their house at 3 in the morning, 9 in the morning. Bingo card. Now, how are you going to explain your car driving by in daylight hours, nighttime hours, and a clear view of your car, not a swoosh of your car driving by? Just saying. Because that's part of the evidence as well. A white car leaving the general area, speeding in the wee hours, in the dark. So if they got you on camera during the wee hours, there's no way I'm going to sit here and believe they don't have some type of video of him during the daylight. Once again, you've been to the house at least 10 times. So that means somebody else also could have video footage, depending on how far back their camera system goes, to show you going back and forth, stalking over there on that damn street. See, you got all that too. Now you got to ask, when was the last time he was there before that Sunday morning? Now, you have something. Hold on 1 minute, everybody. Always got us a problem. So that's what people don't understand about Ring cameras, surveillance. There's always somebody with a camera somewhere, on a store, on a business, on a house. And the police, they're going to go door to door asking these people for their cameras. So see, we don't even know when he was last at the house. And I'm not talking about that morning at 9 a.m. I'm not talking about when he was there in the wee hours, riding around trying to wait and figure out when he was going to go in the house. I'm talking about before Sunday morning. I'm talking about Saturday. I'm talking about Friday, Thursday, Wednesday. And I won't doubt somebody's got footage of him lurking about a day or two before Sunday. No way I'm going to believe in my spirit he just woke up in the wee hours and said, okay, I'm getting ready to go over here now and unalive these kids. No, he's been watching, planning it in his head, working it out, probably doing, as we call it, mock trials, doing a dry run. And what would be a dry run? Getting your ass out of the car and walking the street, walking the property, walking in front of the house, walking up that road on the side of the house, which would be the right of the house where that apartment building sits. Walk up there, walk around, look down into the house, stand up there in that parking lot like a damn dodo bird and watch. Because you have to know when you're going to make your move to go in the house. So he had to have done a dry run. So when did KOHBERGER do a dry run? That's what I'd like to know. Because there's no way in my spirit I'm going to believe he didn't do a dry run before that early Sunday morning. He's been on that street, and I believe he's been on the street on foot, not just a car. Yes, he could have drove by many times. Yes, he could have driven up that hill and sat up there and watched, but you can't see just by sitting in a car. You're going to have to get your butt out of your car. And most stalkers work by foot, not by car. So at some point, KOHBERGER, I believe, has gone on foot near that house. And what's going to be even more disturbing if we find out he's been in that house, because you have to remember, he didn't break into their house. There were no signs of a break-in. So that would lead us to believe he possibly has done a dry run and he has went inside this house with these kids in there or not there. That's where the stalking comes in. Watch, 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 make my move, go in, see if I can get in undetected and get back out. And for all we know, he went in one day or went near, got spooked, left, and then he waited and said, okay, I'll try it again. See, we don't know. Somebody's going to have to bring us a blueprint of his foot movements, video surveillance of him walking, driving, sitting. Because as I said, I do believe he's done a dry run. He's been over there. He's walked that street. And he's possibly been in there. They suspected that. He's been in the house, looked around, walked it. But guess what? Everybody knows that you could go to Google, survey the house. It was online. You could see the layout of the house, front and back, inside of the house. You didn't even have to go in there. You could just pull the house up on Google and walk the tour of the house. So do you believe he walked in that house at some point before Sunday? I'll put that up on a poll. Do you think he's been in the house before he committed the crime? Possibly. Now I'm having difficulties getting this off of here. Hello, everybody in the chat. Some reason I don't want to pull up. Flora says, I'm sure he was all over that place. Okay. Yeah. He's bold. So, you know, hey. Now there's talk of him possibly going inside of the house of another young lady's house. And she said the guy had a knife. He was in her bedroom. But her description of the suspect is of a short person. So possibly that was not KOHBERGER, that was in her house, okay? She said the guy was about 5'3", 5'4", something like that. But has he gone into other women's homes? Wondering that as well. Has he gone inside of anyone's house in Washington or Idaho from the summer up until winter before he went to Pennsylvania. Also, when he lived in Pennsylvania, will we find out he's been in someone's house and or exacted the same type of crime? I think he did dry runs even in Pennsylvania because of that one situation of him parking his car at a park and they had locked the gate and his car was there overnight. You have to ask yourself, he's familiar with the area, he knows the area, why would your car get locked in a park? And where was he while his car was locked in that park? I think he was out snooping and stalking them, a prey. Now, did he go in someone's house, break into a woman's house, sexually assault anyone? I don't know. But I thought that was suspicious. That's the only thing they have on him as far as suspicion is that car locked in a park.
Out repeatedly is where this DNA started. Where did the chain start? Well, it started at a quadruple homicide at a crime scene.
2 days of explosive hearings in the murder case of 4 Idaho college students who prosecutors say were brutally stabbed to death by this man, Brian Kohberger. His attorneys trying to paint the murder investigation as flawed and shrouded in secrecy, all in an effort to get key evidence thrown out.
You're being led down this path to say there's a real investigation when there wasn't a real investigation. You don't find probable cause on that.
The now 30-year-old is facing the death penalty, charged with brutally murdering Kaylee Gonzalez, Madison Mogan, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin in an off-campus home in November of 2022. It's a case that gripped the nation ever since.
It's a major break in the murder of 4 Idaho college students, the arrest of a 28-year-old man in Pennsylvania in connection with the brutal murders of 4 University of Idaho students.
Prosecutors say surveillance footage, cell phone records, and DNA evidence link Kohberger to the murders. The linchpin, Kohberger's DNA.
We're not just talking about his DNA happened to be found in, a dresser drawer or something. It was found on a knife sheath where 4 people were killed by a knife. This is as crime scene as it gets.
But Kohberger's attorneys arguing to have that crucial DNA evidence dismissed, claiming it was unlawfully obtained using public genealogy websites.
If you can upload one of these profiles for $12 and find out all kinds of information, how is that not a Fourth Amendment issue? That was done twice without a warrant in this case.
The Fourth Amendment protects against illegal search and seizure. And what the defense is arguing here is that law enforcement used inappropriate techniques that they use in gathering DNA and then using it in a genetic genealogy database to what they argue was against policies for that database.
Kohberger's attorneys also arguing that authorities violated the law when they used a garbage collector to retrieve trash from the Kohberger family's gated neighborhood in Pennsylvania.
Let me interject here. Flora, the girl states that he fell into the wall or did something. So you would see the person when they run out. So if a person's running out with their back to you, you can tell they're not 6 foot, 6'1", 6'2", 6'3", because she was able to see the person leave out of her house, out of that room that she was in. So I think you would know the difference between a person crouching down versus somebody standing upright, because he had to leave out of there. So he left out. She could tell, she said the person was short, wasn't a tall person.
Without a warrant, the FBI using the garbage to make the DNA match.
I think it is different when you have the FBI telling the trash man what to do.
Oftentimes, a sample of DNA that has been discarded is what the courts call an abandonment sample, that you don't have an expectation of privacy for a pizza crust you throw out or a water bottle that you drink from and throw out.
But prosecutors arguing all facets of this investigation, including the DNA and the use of public genealogy databases, were done properly.
The individuals who are utilizing these databases, and we're talking about millions of them, are willingly sharing their information with each other. The issue is that no one sharing this information with millions of other people could have a reasonable expectation of privacy.
Based on the judge's responses to the defense's arguments, it's unlikely that this evidence does get suppressed, meaning not shown to the jury at trial. If it is suppressed, then prosecutors would have to lean on other forms of evidence.
The defense also questioning the credibility of a surviving roommate. In an affidavit, the roommate recalled being in the home and frozen, seeing a man wearing black clothes and a mask walk past her.
This is one of two roommates who survived, and this is the roommate who gave police a lot of information. She described the killer who she saw, the man who was in the house, as being a tall white male with bushy eyebrows, and that fits the description of Brian Kohberger. So the defense is now trying to pull apart her credibility.
This witness has claimed that she's not sure what she heard or saw was real, or whether it was at a dream. There's further statements from that witness in that police interview that said that she had had too much to drink and couldn't remember.
The surviving roommate gave statements to law enforcement that the defense is trying to argue was not necessarily accurate. They may have been intoxicated or sleepy, or may have seen things that might not have fit exactly perfectly for what law enforcement then articulated to the judge.
Let's talk about that. Fuzzy, drunk, don't know if I saw what I think I saw. Well, which is it? What's the truth? My thing is this: drunk, not drunk, fuzzy, half asleep, not asleep. She got up a few times in the night, opening and closing the door. And on that last time, allegedly, he passed her and she was in a frozen state. And obviously he didn't notice her, which if you look at the layout of the house, I don't see how he didn't see her standing in the doorway or standing with the door half open. You know, you always have to question anything a person says naturally. But he passed her. She was in a frozen state. So was she staring out through the crack of the door? It was partially open. How far open? 2 inches, 3 inches, 4 inches, or the door was wide open and he walked by. So you mean to tell me after he killed Xana and Ethan, you're standing in the doorway. Let's just say the door is wide open and you're standing there trying to figure out where all this noise and whimpering's coming from. He walks right by you, so he's in a frozen state as well. Make it make sense. He's exhausted. He's tired. You can weigh it 1,000 ways. He's tired. He's exhausted. He's in a frozen state. He just killed 2 more people. He walks by an eyewitness and says nothing, does nothing. Make it make sense. The point is his DNA's on that damn sheath, as they see it, as this attorney says for the state. Not in the dresser drawer, but on the knife sheath that's sitting under one of the victims. A knife. Knife sheath, rather. Knife not ever found. He forgot that sheath because he took it off to stab those kids up there. Possibly, yeah, only wanted one, but one was there for the taking, an extra party, so I got to kill her too. Allegedly, Kelly was sitting up because she probably was the one in the corner of the bed because they said the bed was, pushed all the way up to the wall because of the size of the room. So imagine 2 people in the bed trying to fight. Couldn't win. She's pinned in. She can't get out. This is a terrible case because just envisioning what those children went through is horrible enough, just trying to envision. I don't want to. I don't ever want to be in their situation. And another thing, leaving the doors unlocked. I had said this from the beginning when I first started talking about this case over 2 years ago. I said to myself, it was a recipe for disaster how those kids were living. And we'll talk about that after this content plays. It was a recipe for disaster. Because anytime you're living in a house with a bunch of people coming and going, you're letting every Tom, Dick, and Harry come in your house, you don't even know a damn thing about them. You're letting your house be a party house, you're asking for trouble. And it doesn't matter if you're a student, older person, whenever you let your house be a free fall for strangers, you're asking for trouble, because you should know that out of all those people coming and going out of your house, there would be a dirty bird amongst those people coming and going. Somebody knows who's there, not there. They know who lives there. They know who has a car, don't have a car. You have to think like a criminal, and most people don't. Because a lot of you feel like, well, I don't have any reason to think like a criminal. Well, you should. Just keeping it real. Maybe you should start trying. Because that's how most people get caught up. They don't think about their surroundings. They don't think about nothing. Just breathing, getting up, doing what I want, walk out the door, leave a door unlocked, leave a window unlocked. You can't do that. These kids were living in a house where they kept people coming in and out and didn't even lock their own damn door. So whether it was that glass door broke, not broke, bad juju. Bad juju. And now we know somebody was watching the house for that very reason. If the front door had a lock on it and it wasn't unlocked, and it's alleged that he went on the side of the house through that glass door, ding, 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 that means you've been watching and possibly did a dry run, like I said. Because how would I know to go in that door? Bingo card. I wouldn't. Why would I know to go back there? You drive by that house, you have one door facing the street. You're not paying attention to the back of the house unless it's wintertime and you know you can see naturally coming around the ridge and coming up the street. Okay, they got a back patio, back, porch, blah, blah, blah. But if you're not really in tune and paying attention, which most people don't, you're just driving by, you look over to your right and you see, oh, front door. Why am I focusing on the back? I wouldn't be. I don't want to be focusing on the back if my house faces that back patio, noise complaints. But a random person is not going to be focusing on the back of anybody's house. You have no reason to. But only a dirty bird would be focused. So that's why I said he possibly has done a dry run of the house. That's why he knew to go into that glass door. And people do tend to exit out of the door that they came in. Bingo card. Shut your mouth. I'm going to leave the way I came. Say it again, Queen. I'm going to leave the way I came. Why would I leave in another fucking door? Because allegedly there's only two ways. That glass door and walk down the stairs and walk out the front door. So if he didn't come in the front door, then the only other option is a window or that back glass door. So he's watched the house, surveyed the house, and as I said, Kohlberger possibly has been in that house. He's done a dry run. He's been in that house. He's walked back there. He's lurked back there. He's touched the door. Oops, it's open. Uh-oh, they don't lock their glass door. Oh, I can come in this way. Stay woke, everybody. Well,
after Kohlberger's arrest, officials in the region began to investigate any possible connection to past crimes, like a home invasion in Pullman, Washington, 10 miles from where the murders happened. A woman in this case says a masked assailant broke into her home holding a knife.
Oh my God.
Body camera footage obtained by ABC News shows police responding.
I heard my door open and I looked over and someone was wearing a ski mask and had a knife. And so I kicked it out of their stomach and screamed super loud and they flew back into my closet and then ran out my door and up the stairs.
And according to the police report, the woman describing him as 5'3" to 5'5". Kohlberger is 6 feet tall. After his arrest, Kohlberger became a person of interest for a time in that case, but police say he's no longer a person of interest and the case
remains unsolved.
The defense wanted to raise that issue in an attempt to point the finger at an alternative suspect. That if there are similar crimes in the area or suspects out there other than Brian Kohberger committing similar crimes, and that the jury should contemplate that in believing that Brian Kohberger is not guilty of these charges.
Kaylee Gonzalez's parents have been at nearly every one of Brian Kohberger's hearings, but they weren't allowed into the courtroom for this one. They had to watch from a court live stream.
They want to be there for Kaylee. They are fighting on her behalf. They believe that Brian Kohberger is guilty. They want him to get the death penalty. And they want all of this to be opened up. They want the world to see what's going on, so it cannot be appealed at some point. They don't want evidence tossed out.
They sat down with me last year talking about how their daughter was found.
It's my understanding Kaylee was kind of sitting up, yes, and had fought. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And the way that room's.
Whoops. Uh-oh. Sorry about that, everybody. She's just acting real ugly tonight. Gotta reload it. Let me jump a bit. Hold on. So they don't believe this girl's describing a guy coming in her house. She doesn't think, they don't think Kohberger's the suspect in that case. Sorry about that.
I kicked the other stomach and screamed.
There for Kaylee. They are fighting on her behalf. They believe that Brian Kohberger is guilty. They want him to get the death penalty. And they want all of this to be opened up. They want the world to see what's going on, so it cannot be appealed at some point. They don't want evidence tossed out.
They sat down with me last year talking about how their daughter was found.
It's my understanding Kaylee was kind of sitting up, yes, and had fought. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And the way that room's put together, if you come through that door, you can't get out of that room.
You know, the headboard was up against the wall. The side where Kaylee was on was up against the wall. And if you can imagine Kaylee in an upright sort of position up in the corner, slumped. I mean, she was trapped.
Kaylee was one of the 4 tight-knit college friends killed in that off-campus home on King Road in Moscow, Idaho. It all began the night of November 12th, 2022. Kaylee and Maddie, newly 21 and lifelong best friends, went to a popular campus bar around 10 p.m. This video appears to be the last time they were seen alive before turning in for the night. Authorities say their roommate, Xana, and her boyfriend, Ethan, both 20, were at a fraternity party earlier that same night, arriving home around 1:45 a.m. There's 3 stories to the house. Kaylee and Maddie were together in Maddie's room on the 3rd floor. Kaylee's dog Murphy was alone in Kaylee's bedroom just down the hall. Ethan was staying over that night in Xana's room, which was on the 2nd floor. One of the other roommates in the house also on the 2nd floor, and one in a bedroom on the 1st floor.
Everything was so normal in that home on King Road. Nobody could have imagined it was about to become a house of horror.
Police responding to a 911 call just before noon, hours after law enforcement say the murders happened.
When the lead sergeant goes into the house, he later told people how the high smell of blood rose up in his nostrils, and it took him back.
This is a brutal crime scene. These victims were not shot. They were stabbed to death.
What was baffling to police, they say, is that it didn't appear.
Can you imagine walking into a house, apartment, whichever, and smelling blood? As most of you know, who have ever been to a crime scene, some of you have not, Queen has. When you walk into the space, you will smell iron. You will smell iron. That's from the blood. So I can't even imagine what it was like when the first officer was on scene. Because you got to remember, you're talking about 2 dead people upstairs and then 2 around the corner from that kitchen, okay? And if you could smell it just feet away, my goodness. But I know that smell because I had a relative unalive themselves in their townhouse, and they unalived themselves upstairs, and I could smell the blood when I walked into the front door of the townhouse. And you should know I was feet away from the alleged room, from the room where he took his own life. And I could smell the blood just opening the front door. That's how heavy that smell permeates. You understand? And then you got to think how long the body sat in there up until the time a first responder police officer got on to the scene. And naturally, I could smell blood in this townhouse because the remnants had not been cleaned up. And trust me, it was something I could not do. I went there to help clean up the blood and I ran out. I couldn't do it because I'm sitting there looking at blood clots on the floor and my mind just couldn't compute scooping that up with a fucking machine, a rented machine from Winn-Dixie. This is how crazy, life is. You're scooping up the remnants of a human being that once was. Trust me, it's a terrible feeling. Although he was not, murdered, but he took his own life. But just saying that after effect of having to clean up, it's a terrible place to be. I don't wish it on anyone.
Hear that there was any forced entry. It doesn't appear that any of the victims had been sexually assaulted.
2 weeks later, Kohberger was arrested at his parents' home in Pennsylvania.
Last night, detectives arrested 28-year-old Brian Christopher Kohberger.
Kohberger had been working on his PhD in criminology at Washington State University, just 10 miles across state lines from the University of Idaho, where Kaylee, Maddie, Xana, and Ethan were just starting their futures, documenting their friendship on social media.
Kaylee is like the definition of sunshine.
To know Kaylee was to love Kaylee.
Kaylee and Maddie had been best friends since 6th grade.
They did absolutely everything together. First dates, first boyfriends, graduated high school. And they had their first heartbreaks together. Kaylee was 12, 13 years old. They're blasting Taylor Swift in the basement, comforting each other.
If I had 1 or 2 words to describe Maddie Mae, it would be just an angel. She just made me proud.
Xana was in the same sorority as Maddie. She was dating Ethan, a freshman, and also a triplet.
My first impression of Ethan was he's just this huge dude that you wouldn't really approach, but as soon as you really got to know him, you realize that he's like one big teddy bear.
As the victim's family and friends wait for the judge to rule on this week's hearings, Kohberger's jury trial is slated to begin in August.
It's going to be tough on the family members. It always is in any murder case, but this one is unique that you've got the world's attention. But for these families, they say they just want justice.
They just want justice. That was Brian Kohberger in court days ago. And his attorneys want most of the evidence thrown out. They want the IGG DNA information to be introduced into trial. They feel like his Fourth Amendment rights were violated, that law officials had no right to go get that information, which is free information, as you hear in court being argued. That is free information. Anybody has access to it, so what is the big deal? And basically, I don't think the judge cares about what the defense is crying about, because in the end, all roads led to Brian Kohberger. I don't think he was somebody they went and picked on and harassed. And you understand what I'm saying? he was somebody linked to them, and then they just decided to, pick him out of a group of people to harass and point the finger at. I don't think so. I think everything happened just the way it happened. Now, as I said, the only problem I have with this investigation is if they didn't, why didn't they exact search warrants before he left from school? Why didn't you do search warrants before he left and went home to Pennsylvania? Tracking him all the way over there just seemed weird to me, because I know it was probably, I think it was a week or two, about a week to two, when the cop in Washington got information about the Elantra. He got the information that they were looking for a suspect, from Moscow, that he saw a car on the property at an apartment complex, university housing, and then one thing begat another. That's how the investigation started. Everything leaned on Dylan's description of the suspect, surveillance of the car leaving the area, and then that cop noticing the white Elantra at the university housing. So the ball was set into motion. And then, naturally, they run the name. They pull up a picture. He fits the description that Dylan gave to the police, and here we are. So then they go into the database and pull up DNA through a linkage of a relative, which, linked to his father. One thing begets another. But like I said, I still believe all roads would have still led to him. Even if they had done, search warrants for his apartment, which I think they should have done. If they didn't, you got to count how long it takes to get all those things in order, search warrants and everything, getting a judge to sign off on the search warrants. But yes, his home should have been searched. Garbage cans outside of his apartment searched before he went to Pennsylvania. So that's where I have a problem with the investigation. Why were they not done if they weren't? Let me just say that, if they were not done. If they were not done, why not? What took so long to get these search warrants on the table? Because naturally, like they say, you have to have probable cause to ask for a search warrant for anyone. So I'm assuming the same information that got you to Pennsylvania will be the same information to ask a judge, hey, we need to search this guy's house. We need to storage units, his office, so on and so forth. They didn't find anything at his office at the university. I don't know that they found anything in the little storage, pertaining to the apartment, because I don't think he had a whole lot. He didn't have, because that was mentioned also in the affidavit, there was sparse furniture in his apartment. So I was also curious about that. What exactly did he have in his apartment? I do believe they said there was like a speck of blood on a pillowcase or something, a pillowcase or sheet or something. And one would have to ask themselves, what was that blood? Is that from a nosebleed, cut lip, or did he take someone's blood back to the apartment? Because think about it. You're stabbing a person, which he stabbed for brutally. Did he go home and take a shower? Or did he just go home and wash his hands? So you got to ask all those things. Where's the knife? Where are his clothes? What did he do with all of those things? I'm assuming he dumped all of those things after he left the scene. And you're talking about vast land, vast places to drop off clothes, drop off a knife. I won't doubt he buried the knife somewhere. Probably already went somewhere and dug a hole somewhere in the middle of nowhere, and then went there that night, put the hole in the hole, covered it up with dirt, so he could always go back to get the knife. Where is the knife? Where are his clothes and shoes? I do believe the shoes were tested, if I'm not mistaken. And they match a pair of his shoes. There was, they said, a latent footprint outside the door of Dylan's room. So he kept the shoes, but where are the clothes? Where were the clothes? What did he do with his clothes? What other evidence do they have against Brian C. KOHBERGER? Will we find out he left blood at the scene mixed in with the victim's blood? Did any of the women grab Kohberger by the hair, by the face, by the shirt, by the pants? Did he leave anything behind, such as hair, skin, anything under the victim's fingernails? Because he did kill 4 people. Will we find out there's DNA belonging to Kohberger under the victim's nails? Did he, once again, cut himself? Any blood from him mixed in with the victim's blood? Any blood found at the house? Trail of blood in the sheets, on the bed, on the floor. Anything left behind belonging to Kohberger? Because there's no way I believe you kill 4 people like that. I don't care if you got gloves on or not. You've left something. And you also took something back, because the one thing nobody talks about is the obvious. He had to get out of there. So you want me to believe he got inside of his vehicle, bloodied? He got in his vehicle bloody and drove out of there like a bat out of hell, and then went where? Stargazing? Turned his phone on in the wee hours, which is strange, after stargazing. Well, where are the clothes? Because he had to have gotten in his car with the clothes on. And if he had on dark clothes, then that means he didn't have on a disposable suit. Hazmat type suit. Stay woke now. So that means he got in his car with bloody clothes, all of that. He had to take the gloves off to drive. You wouldn't want to be driving with bloody gloves on. Pay attention now. You got to open your car door. You got to sit down. You got to shut the car door. So see, you want me to believe he didn't take something with him from the crime scene? And he didn't wear a hazmat suit? And he left a latent shoe print, so that means he didn't have booties on. So you have to pay attention to the details. So you got in your car bloody, and I'm supposed to believe you left nothing behind inside of your car. Now, did he go get the car clean that morning to a car wash? Wash the car out, vacuum the car seats. You still leave behind things. You'd have to thoroughly wipe down the outside of the door, inside of the door, inside of the seats. You'd have to have it shampooed, not vacuumed, but shampooed, because you've had blood on your clothes. And no way I believe he didn't get blood on his clothes. He just killed 4 people. So everything should have been bloody. Pants, shirt, arms of the shirt, possibly cut himself, blood on your shoes. This is a diabolical story. And once again, whether he knew the victims, never met the victims, stalked the victims, the point still remains you don't know people, and you have to be aware of your faculties. You have to be aware of what you post, because I got a feeling he found these kids on social media, or he bumped into one of them out in public somewhere and became obsessed with one of the girls, or could be all, I don't know. You know, everyone's had their interpretation of how they think he found them and which one was the target. So let's go there. Which one was the target? Why that one? Probably angry at all of them because he did kill Xana and Ethan and left 2 alive. So see, that doesn't make any sense. Why is he walking by one, but he doesn't kill her? Why didn't he go through the rest of the house and search? Because if you can run down the stairs after killing 2 people and then go around a kitchen corner and kill 2 more, then why wouldn't you have killed the other 2? People are going to ask that question because it doesn't add up. The glass door is closest to the stair landing that leads to Maddie's room, so that didn't make any sense for you to bypass the kitchen, to go around the kitchen, through that little tiny corridor into the living room, and then go over to Xana's room. Why? So it leads me to believe possibly the kids were up talking. Maybe they heard something, heard a struggle. Hey, what's going on up there? See, I don't know. They're not here to tell us, and I don't know what the hell Dylan's going to tell us. Will her memory be more refreshed come trial? Don't know. Will she tell the truth? Don't know. But one thing that bothered many people, them calling other people over to the house, that was bizarre. Why are you calling people and there are dead people lying around? It's not, you do that after you've called 911. Other people when somebody's lying dead and brutally murdered. You call 911, then you call your friend, friends, mother, father, whomever, and say, oh, I just found my roommate. But you're supposed to call the police. As soon as you found them dead, you're supposed to have ran out that house and then dialed 911. But allegedly one of them passed out. Somebody else took the phone and did the calling for them. But then part of me says that still don't make no sense either, because if one's on the ground, the other one should have taken her phone or whichever and called. The other roommate should have called. Yes, can you please hurry? So like people said, you're calling to say your friend passed out instead of saying at first, oh, there's 4 dead people, that's why she passed out. It's all bizarre. So we'll get a better understanding when trial comes. I'm sure we'll hear the 911 call to hear who actually called, who was saying what in the background of the conversation. Because the reason why things don't make sense is the obvious: we weren't there. We're only getting tidbits of information from the state. But I'd like to hear the 911 call. I'd like to know what the girls did from the moment they found the bodies and when they stepped outside. I'd like to know who said what to whom, because that's an interesting part of the story as well. It's the after effect. Going in, looking for the roommates, finding them dead, then you go outside. So did you call 911 inside, or you called friends inside first? Or you ran straight out after finding the bodies? One tried to call but passed out. Somebody's walking by and they see and they intervene. It's still strange. I don't care what nobody says, because there's still another person with the roommate who should have been on the phone talking to the 911 operator to say, hey, my roommate just passed out. And I'm calling because we just found a friend's dead and now she's passed out from, seeing their bodies. Make it make sense. Did Kohlberger do a dry run at this residence? To this house before and make entry into the house, surveyed the house, and came out? Did he go in the house at another time to kill these people, but got shook, left out, or made it to the driveway, or made it to the door, got spooked, left? See, we don't know. But I won't doubt he's been to that house. He's been on the property. He's walked around that house. He's stood and watched the house from that parking lot behind the house. He's been near that house. He's been either near that house or he's been on that property or inside of that house. I won't doubt that he has done a dry run, that he's been in that property, because the point still remains: how would he know that there's a back door? How would he know there's a side door to enter? You'd only know if you've driven up and down that street and you're driving slowly and you're watching every little small, minute detail, because you have to count the streets that run behind that house. There's a street up there on that ridge, then coming on down that street to turn on that street. You have to ask yourself, is it accessible to see that back patio door driving up the street? Full bloom? I don't know, because I haven't been on the street personally to say, yeah, you could see it driving by. But definitely in winter, you probably can see the back of the house coming down the street when there's no leaves on the trees. But he was over on that property in that street when it was full bloom, because there's data to show he's been over there when it was summertime, late summer. So what is scary about this story is how he came to find the victims. And I won't doubt that he found them through IG scrolling through profiles, because naturally, if you're on social media, you see people's pictures that you can friend. Could have just saw one, piqued his interest, and he took it from there. They've got these sweatshirts and shirts on showing where to go to school. They're talking on their pages. Anybody with a pulse could put two and two together. They were Idaho University students. And one thing begets another. This is why I always tell people, you have to be careful what you post. Then they're using their government name. So now I know your full name. Your house is distinctive. The house was a weird looking box with a door in the middle. It's a very odd looking house. How hard do you think it would be to find it? It wouldn't be hard. People talk, people tell things in their live streams. Oh, we're just sitting out, we're doing this, we're doing that. It doesn't take long to find anything. And when you're in a small town, you can find an apartment complex or an apartment building or a house. Then you got your Google searches, Googling the people's names. You can find them. Google the itinerary at the university, which, you know, we had that in college. People could look up our telephone numbers because our name and all that stuff was in a phone book for the university. So it would be easy to find us. Small college campus, wasn't hard to find our room numbers and our telephone number associated with our dorm number, room number. See, there's ways to be found. And people don't think about that when they're out here. You're just thinking, I'm going about my daily life. Nobody's watching me. Nobody's worrying about where I live, where I work. But he found these girls some type of way, either bumping into one somewhere in public, restaurant, social media. The point is he found them. And I always thought that Kohlberger may have actually applied to school to stalk the girls. Did that ever occur to anybody? That perhaps he found them on social media some type of way and decided to move out there to that area, apply to school to get close to the prey. Now that would be even more diabolical. Because you also have to ask yourself why he chose Pullman, Washington to attend school. Will we ever find that reason out, why he chose that school? Number one. Did he choose the school because it was close to Idaho, where the prey attended school? Did he apply to school deliberately to stalk and harm these kids? I don't know. Could have came out on a visit. You know, they had a program he wanted to attend, and then he found the girls that way. You know, scrolling itineraries. Maybe one was in a book, some type of leaflet. So you don't know. They take pictures on campuses for different things, organizations. He could have actually applied to the University of Idaho. Did that ever occur to anybody? One of the girls' pictures was in a leaflet. He saw her, became fascinated. Oh, she's pretty. I like her. I think I'm going to apply to school here. See, you don't know how this all actually unfolded. But I'm assuming his data, his phone, will give us the jump start to how he discovered these young people, who his target was. Could be all were the target, just mad at the world, mad at women, angry at who he is. He isn't that guy that girls will be attracted to, women will be attracted to. We got information from one lady that went on a date with him. She ended up pretending she was sick to get him out of her apartment. See, you never know. You don't know people. Now imagine how she felt when she found out he was a suspect. I've been on a date with this guy. He's been in my house. But I wanted him out because he was acting creepy. Because what did he tell her? She had good bones to bear children. It's a very weird comment. Good bones, good build for bearing children. You don't hear that every day. You might hear a guy say, oh, you built nice. Got nice cars, got a nice body. But you don't hear guys saying, oh. So that makes you wonder if he wanted a family, saw himself as a father. But look how that turned out. Nobody would want this thing for a boyfriend, husband. or a father. And he's not going to be any of those things unless he takes up with a female inside of jail. Just saying. Staff member, guard, God forbid. Those are just my thoughts on this case. I don't think this information is going to get thrown out, the evidence of the IGG search. I think the judge is going to let it stand. And I think the defense is just going to have to wade through all of the evidence come time, for trial. And they're just going to have to vigorously defend their client and try to keep him from being executed, found guilty and executed. But I pray that he's found guilty. And I also pray that he gets the death penalty because he rightfully deserves the death penalty for what he did to these children, brutally unaliving them. He did not have to go to that house. He did not have to stalk these kids. He did not have to break in. And he did not have to viciously stab these kids to death. And the one thing that was mentioned in the commentary during this live stream is that the young women were not sexually assaulted. And usually when you see crimes of this nature, brutal stabbings, killings, strangulations, usually the female victims are sexually assaulted. So many will ask, why were they not sexually assaulted? I don't know. But it's obvious he hates women. So although he did not touch them inappropriately, I don't know. He doesn't like women. And he probably feels that he is superior. We heard that about him in his demeanor at school as a teacher's assistant, professor's assistant, and also his demeanor in dealing with other people from his past to present. He had a superior attitude. He felt like he was a know-it-all. And a lot of people like that are hard to deal with, okay? Some of us can be know-it-alls as well, but we're not killers. We're not out here stalking people and trying to unalive them. Planning to unalive them. I would assume he's a narcissist. Now, is he a sociopath or psychopath? It would be up to a psychotherapist or psychiatrist to say whichsoever he is, but he's sick. And I'm sure he's been sick a long time. He has previous drug usage. Don't know if that plays a role into how he spiraled out of control. But then, too, we have people who have used drugs and they have not committed homicide. ×4. But I believe he has issues with himself, identity issues. He was not secure with himself. He was insecure. He didn't like himself. A lot of self-loathing. A lot of contempt for himself, possibly others. And I think he felt like women were the enemy. I'll get them. I'll show them. I'll show them who Brian Kohlberger is. I'll show them for, why they should like me. Be interested in me. I'll show them. And sadly, he unalived 4 kids who didn't have a dog in the race pertaining to who he is, his issues with the world, his issues with women. They didn't know him. They could care less. But that's the type of world we live in. People take out their problems on other people because they're mad at the world, they're having a bad damn day, and they don't know how to turn that shit off. And that's Brian C. Kohlberger. He didn't know how to turn it off. So he needed a victim. And he found 4. He found 4, sadly. And sadly, there will be somebody else who is walking around feeling the same jacked up way. Mad at the world, mad at women, mad at men, whomever. Mad at society, mad at themselves. They ain't living the way they want to live. They don't have the attributes they feel like they should have. So now they need a victim. This is a cruel world. And this is why I always preach this on this network about what you divulge, what you talk about, what you profess, what you claim, what you post to social media, what you talk about. Yes, it can get you hurt. You have to be very careful posting anything personal, your address, your background. And a lot of people really don't understand. This is how people find out things about you. Just taking a simple walk down the block can tell people how to find you. Because all you have to do is say, I'm just walking the neighborhood. I'm just going over here to this coffee bar, this coffee shop, this whatever. Now people know. And then you say, oh, I only live 2 minutes away, 3 minutes away. Well, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to put 2 and 2 together. You live in the vicinity of that Starbucks. That's stop and go. You understand what I'm saying? Then you got your government name as your profile. Dangerous. Now I know your name. Now all I have to do is go in the search and try to find you. It won't take much. God forbid if I'm an evil person and I want exact harm against you, it won't take much to find you. Then I could go in somebody's inbox and start asking questions about you. And sadly, there would be a fool that would give information about you. As I said, you don't know people. And these kids had no idea that somebody was lurking in the shadows, watching them vigorously, obsessively watching them, peeping them out, stalking them. And that's why I said they should have had their door locked. Yes, people are dangerous. They didn't even have their damn door locked. And I know I was pissed off when I heard that. I was like, what? You don't have a door to lock? You got to have a door. You cannot leave your door unlocked. Anybody could have came up in there, not just KOHBERGER. Any random person could have walked in their house and sexually assaulted them, robbed them. Seriously. You cannot leave your door unlocked, people. Stop doing that. You can't assume, oh, I'm in the middle of nowhere. I'm in a small town. Nobody's going to rob us here. And you know, they didn't have a lot of high crime in that town, but it doesn't matter. College kids steal. They rob. They get high on drugs. They commit sexual assault. Come on. I said it when I first heard they had parties there. People were like, oh, Queen, they had a party that's Friday night. I said that was a recipe for disaster. Then they go back in the book. They brought us body cam footage of when they had noise complaints and Kaylee was confronted by the police. And then the one time the girls had allegedly left and the guy opened the door and said they were gone that night. No, I don't think they were gone. I think they were right there. That right there was baffling to me. Stranger opening your door and talking to the police. Oh, they're not here. They're gone. Blah, blah, blah. They were having a party that night. And I thought, this is crazy to me. Just got a bunch of people in your house opening doors to the police, whether you were there or not. It's crazy to me. Random people walking through your house drunk, drinking in your personal space. I don't think people really think about that, how crazy that is. Allegations that at least 100 or so people were in the house that Friday. Don't know if that's true or not, but let's just role play for just a second. Imagine at least 50, 60 people, 100 people in that house on the property walking through with girls in their private space. Imagine coming out to go to the bathroom. You're on the bottom level, whatever, and there are some guys hanging on the stairs, and you got to go wee-wee. What if they decide they want to play some dirty games with you? If you understand what I'm saying. Hey, you're looking cute. You're looking pretty. Where are you going? Oh, I'm trying to go to the bathroom. And then they grab her, drag her into her room, sexually assault her. That's what I'm talking about. Nobody would know nothing because you're down there on the bottom level. Nobody can see or hear anything. Music's playing. People are laughing, drunk, doing whatever young people do. And you're cornered down there coming out your own damn bathroom. Or somebody knows you're in there and picked the lock. See, nobody thinks. Nobody thinks. Yeah, blinds up. Right. Stand on the street and just watch. Hell, there's an apartment building facing their house. Back of an apartment building face their front door. You could just sit in your window and watch them come and go all damn day. You just sit in your window and watch. Then they had an apartment building sitting beside them where people could watch coming, going. It was a recipe for disaster because it's too much foot traffic on that street. 2 apartment buildings right sitting near you. The house beside you, he had a bullseye view of the back door. Then the person's house over the fence, who possibly may have complained about the noise, he had a bullseye view, that house, of your back patio and the balcony. Pay attention, everybody. All eyes could be on this house. That's my point. Then you've got the building to the right where you could drive up that drive and just park your car and just sit there in the back of the parking lot, just gaze down there into the damn house. Or just slide down the little hill, be on the property. Stay woke. That's all a person had to do. Just glide down that little short hill. You're already on that property. See, nobody thinks about that because we are oblivious to our surroundings. Let me tell you something. There is always somebody watching. Hello, Don. Thank you for joining me. There is always somebody watching you. You don't even think that people are watching you. They do. Queen knows, because I've had people tell me stuff that I'm looking like, why are you repeating back to me what the fuck I was doing? Oh, I saw you go over there. I saw your car over there. I saw this. And you're like, what the hell are you talking about? Oh, I saw you talking to this person. You'd be surprised at the stuff that people pay attention to. I'm a good observer just because that's just Queen. I don't miss nothing. I got ears like a dog. I know when you're opening your door. I know when you're closing your door. I know when you're standing outside my door. I've always been this way. And many people are like, what? You damn right. God gave me good hearing. You know what I'm saying? To some degree. Basically, I can hear better far off than I can hear up close. But I know when you're outside the damn door. I can go outside my door right now and best believe there's somebody either walking by or standing by, because that's how good my damn hearing is. And some of you need to try to sharpen your hearing and your eyesight. Seriously. Because a lot of you are oblivious. You have tunnel vision. You're just walking out in life. You don't pay attention to nothing. And I'm not trying to be rude, but I think it's time for everybody to start wising up. You need to start paying attention to little things. You need to start being aware of your surroundings. You need to take heed when people are taking little hot shots at comments towards you. And they're letting you know they're watching you and they're paying attention to shit that you're doing. Well, they ain't just saying that stuff because they're bored. Now, I live here in the South, and people in the South are talkative. They're very nosy. They're meddlesome. And lately, I think this is probably happening all over the world. But here in the South, people are just, nosy as fuck. People say, oh, it's Southern hospitality. Well, I think it's borderline nosy. Because some things people ask, they ain't got no business asking, such as, who's your mom, who's your dad, who you're related to. You hear that a lot here in the South. I don't think they do that up north. And on the East Coast, people aren't asking you who the fuck you're related to because the people are so fucking crazy, you just dare not ask them anything personal. But here in the South, that's a question you're going to get. Who are you related to? That's why we always tell you here in the South, don't talk about people because you don't know who's related to whom. And here in Knoxville, you better not talk about folks because you don't know you're talking to their first damn cousin. That's just the truth. Luckily, I'm not related to most of these motherfuckers, so it don't matter. You understand? But I'm just saying, you got to be careful what you talk about, what you tell. I listen to people talk all the time. And they tell stuff they don't got no business telling. And I get it. We like to vent. So that's what I work on now, being more of a listener. And don't say nothing about nothing. Don't repeat nothing. Don't tell nothing personal. Because you'd be surprised something is mundane. It's just saying, yeah, I heard about the incident that happened yesterday in the building or around the corner. You don't know who's going to take that information anywhere. That's why I tell you, you have to be aware of everything now. You got to be on guard because you don't know people. As I said too here with the men here, they love to ask you where you live. Isn't that what he asked? a girl at a bar, Brian Kohlberger, in Pennsylvania? Isn't that what one girl told the news? Oh yeah, he asked me where did I live. Who asks a stranger where they live? In a bar. It really doesn't matter if they're at the bookstore or the 7-Eleven. You just go up to a stranger and say, hey, where do you live? Excuse me? This is what I'm talking about. You got to be aware of your faculties. No woman has no business telling a man where the fuck she lives first time talking to him. I don't care where you're meeting him. I don't care if you are walking down the street, walking your dog, you're at the 7-Eleven, Piggly Wiggly, you're at the doctor's office. Nobody has any business asking you where you stay. But as I told you, I live here in the South. People talk a mile a minute. Well, exactly. Hello, Miss Simmons. Exactly, sweetheart. You're right. Follow you home. A person can follow you anywhere. Be at the mall, track you right out to your car. Because it's a fascination. I see what I like. I want that. I got to have that by all means necessary. And I think that's exactly what happened with Brian Kohlberger. He saw what he wanted. He had to have it. And he stalked and stalked until he built up the courage to go inside that house. That's why I said I believe he did a dry run. He's been in that house or he's been on that property. He just had to build up the courage. And the only way you can build up courage is by stalking. You got to watch the house. You got to watch how many cars are there. You got to see who's coming and going. You got to get information about the girls. You got to get information about the prey. You see, that's work. I can't just stalk you by looking at your pictures on social media. I got to go to where you are. I got to walk that walk. I got to walk that street. I got to drive by. I got to get where I can get an advantage to look. And he had that opportunity with the apartment building on the hill behind the house. Perfect advantage to just park my car, get out, and just sit there in the car or get out of the car and just stand and watch. As I said, it's a serious situation. And sadly, it happens all the time. And as I said, these kids like to entertain. They had different people over, and it's a normal thing to do. You know, you want to drink, hang out with your friends, invite friends of friends, other people come over. But see, that's the whole point of life. You don't know people. Even the group of people that these kids hung with. We ain't going to sit here and say they were their fucking real friends. It's a myth. It's a myth. Oh, these are my friends. Everybody's not your friend. Quite frankly, Kohlberger could have easily got in that house through other friends. He could have befriended people that he saw hanging around with them. If he was crafty enough and he let down his ego, he could have befriended any of those young people on the campus that hung with those kids, befriended them. They'd say, hey, come hang with us. We're going to go over here to these girls' house. You're welcome to come. He would have had a bullseye view right in that house, hanging with Kaylee and all them girls, and none of them had any idea he's been watching and stalking her ass on social media. People do it all the time. They just don't tell you. They just don't tell you. He could have easily infiltrated those kids' friends. He just was an egomaniac. He didn't have the guts to go into the belly of the beast and befriend their friends. He could have easily gotten close to those girls. But he was a coward and he was a scaredy cat. So he did it another way. I'll just watch from afar. But if it was somebody younger who had a little guts about him, they'd have said, you know, I'm going to befriend the girls. I'm going to befriend their friends of friends so I can get inside. That wasn't Brian Kohlberger. He's a watcher. He likes to watch from afar. And I do believe he did that. This is scary to me. First time I heard the story, and I started talking about this case on this network, it was scary as hell to me because I said, this could be anybody's child. And I'm going to share this quick story with you, and I'm going to check out of here. When I was talking about this case 2 years ago, there was someone who watched my network. She's a former police officer, and she told me that she had a daughter who attended college in my area at that time. And the daughter had an admirer, okay? The daughter had an admirer, and he would, I guess, try to make contact with the girl here at the university. And, I guess, she wasn't interested, whatever. Well, long story short, it was spring break, and the young guy assumed that the young girl had went home for spring break down in Memphis, but she had not. Now, many of you going to say, damn, Queen, how did he know where she lived? If you've been paying attention to anything I've said during this live stream, you know how he found out where she lived, okay? So he travels to Memphis, Tennessee, and goes to her house to make contact with her. But her mother was there. A mother with a gun, if you get my drift. Basically, he got the point. Don't ever come back to that house looking for her, and don't set foot on soil, and don't come back in this jurisdiction. Now, do you follow what I've been saying to you for the past couple of years on this network and pertaining to this story? You don't know people. But if a person has in his or her mind, they're going to get to you, they're going to find you, they're going to follow you, they're going to stalk you, then they would do it by all means necessary. And that's what that young boy did. He followed a woman all the way to Memphis, Tennessee, trying to make contact with her. That's dangerous as fuck. Who does that? So imagine if a person will travel hours to your house, assuming you were there. What he could have done to her up here on the campus. Bingo card. I want you to think about that. If a person is willing to travel all the way to your house unannounced and just show up to your front door, your parents' house, what he could have done to her on the campus in the town where the kids went to school. You're talking about somebody very ill. And if he's done this as a young person, he possibly still has these same ways. Because it takes a bold person to travel hours down a highway and show up to somebody's house that they know fucking well that woman was not interested in him. He did it because he did not care. So I always tell young people to be aware of their faculties, to travel in groups or with a friend, especially when you want to bar hop, you want to drink. You need to be very careful, taking drinks from men, women as well. Anybody can put something in your drink. Be careful going to house parties, fraternity parties, because anybody can hand you a lace drink. Anybody can corner you. You get too inebriated. You're hanging with people you don't know. That's dangerous. You need to be aware of your faculties. Exactly. Escalate. You need to be aware of your faculties, hanging with people you do not know. And let me tell you, it does not matter if you are 18, 22, 32, 52. You can be a victim anywhere. So it's not just about partying with, drinking and drugs. You can get yourself in a world of trouble, honey, at 52. All you have to do is get in the wrong company. And this is why I share these stories with you, so you can be aware, because some people really aren't aware. Everybody thinks, some people just think everybody's nice. Somebody smiles at them. Oh, he's nice. She's nice. You don't know people. We have people going to jail every day that are grown. They're not 20. They're not 18. They're 52. They're 72. And they will poison you. They'll stab you in your back. They'll shoot you. They'll rob you. They'll defraud you. They'll sexually assault you. There's no age limit on a criminal mind. People are what they are. They're people. You have to be aware. And that's why I wanted to talk again about social media, the effects of social media, the random posting, the telling all your personal business on social media, the random, whining and bitching and moaning on social media. Sometimes it's best to be quiet. And that's what I've been doing with social media lately. I've been real quiet. And I have a reason why I've been real quiet. I don't have to share it on the network, but I've been real still on my networks, except for YouTube. Because sometimes, as my father used to tell me, sometimes it's best to just listen. Don't say nothing. Just listen. And it's true, you can learn a lot by listening. And what I'm seeing with social media, it's just a bunch of bullshit. A bunch of crazy ass people posting all damn day and night about absolutely moaning and crying about their problems. Just crazy nonsense. I get it. Sometimes you want to vent. And that's really all Facebook has become, has it not? Just a place to vent. TikTok, IG, it's all the same. Just a place to vent. Tell the world your problems. I said you need to be very careful about what you post and what you tell people about yourself, about your emotional state. Because I'm telling you, it can backfire. You don't think it can, but it can. Especially if you have a job. Anybody can take your post to your job and say, this person's not stable. They're not mental. All they do is cry and moan all day on social media, bitching and crying. Just telling you, you need to be aware of your faculties. People will take things that you post and use it against you. You have to think. And you don't need to be telling people everywhere you go. You don't need to be telling everybody where you're going. Oh, we're going to Aruba for 5 days. Well, that means your house is going to be left unattended. Stay woke, everybody. Gotta stop talking so much on this wire, on the lie box. IG, it's all the same. Let there be some mystery about yourself. And I've told people this on YouTube that watch my channel. From all the stalking and trolls I've encountered dealing with this network. Don't put your government name in the chat. Don't put your government name on X. I wouldn't even put it on Facebook. Some of you say, well, I want my name up there so people can find me. Well, who do you want to find you exactly? See, words are power. Powerful. You have to be careful what you claim. I want people to find me. My old high school friends, college friends. If I don't put my real name up there, they ain't gonna know who I am. Oh, they're gonna know who you are because they're gonna look at their other friends. And if they see that you're a friend of them and then they look at your face and they say, oh, that's old Millie from college. They know who you are. Ding, ding, ding. So maybe you all will go back and check your Facebook page and realize some of the stuff you've got posted you might want to take down. Nobody needs to know where you work, where you went to school, where you went to college. That's how people can find you. Your telephone, email, that does not need to be on your Facebook page. For what? No way in hell I'd put my phone number on no damn Facebook page. If you got it up there, take that shit down. Take your email down. Why would you want people, random people, having your email? Come on, you got to think. Posting your house. Is that a good idea? Posting your car. I'm just asking. Posting your children. Some people won't post their children. We have a lot of creepy crawlies out here. And your own pictures and selfies. People can take that and use it. Make fake Facebook, IG profiles, which they do, hackers. Also, they can put it on a date site, which they do that. You don't even know where your pictures go. Sending pictures to people, you don't know where those end up. And naturally, any type of pornographic material, keep it to yourself. Because you don't want any revenge porn, pictures or videos of yourself engaged in sexual activity. It's all the same. You have to be careful what you post, what you share with other people through messaging systems, WhatsApp, direct phone messages. You have to be very careful what you share with people. Even your text messages can backfire on you. What you text to people, what you say in the heat of an argument. You're upset, pissed off. I'm just giving you a little Sunday knowledge. That it's the little things that we take for granted that can come back and bite us in the ass. Because a lot of times, it's just natural. We don't think when we do things, say things, we're mad, we're popping off. Hell, you want revenge. At some point it could be ramifications. Just saying. Or you could be just walking by, minding your business, and you become an Idaho 4. You didn't hurt anybody. You didn't say anything out of the way to anybody. It's just on this fateful day, somebody chose you to be a victim. Somebody was mad at the world, and they decided they hate people, hate women, and you fell into that category on that fateful morning. So know that you are not exempt from being a true crime victim. You, my friend, can become a true crime story. Thank you for your time. Have a wonderful week. Once again, Happy New Year. And this is the Queen's birthday week, baby. I will be 54 on Wednesday. God is good. January 29th, 1971 was a wonderful year. Thank you. I want to give God thanks for letting me make it to January 2025. And I'm praying I have a wonderful week. I do have some plans for Wednesday. I won't share them with anybody until that day. You'll see it for yourself. I'm definitely not advertising that. I will do it at that moment. But thank you all so much for the kind words, supporting this network, new viewers, new subscribers. Thank you. I'm going to check out of here, but have a wonderful week, everyone. I will put up a movie of the week by no later than tomorrow. Please check out the suggestions from last week. I've got some really nice content for you guys to check out. Movies on Hulu and Netflix. Please check out the one video I've suggested pertaining to a British mystery. And it speaks on what I'm talking about as far as the date side and getting to know people and personal information to show you don't know people. It's a very interesting series. It's got a lot of different storylines, plots within the series. And it just goes to what I've talked about on this network with fake profiles and catfishing. You don't know people. And that what people tell you may not be the whole truth. And usually you don't find out until it's too late. Thank you all. If you'd like to donate to this great network, $Big Angie 129 Cash App. Stickers and chats are always welcome during the live stream. This content was pertaining to Brian C. KOHBERGER. His attorneys are trying to get evidence thrown out. They're projecting trial for August 2025. Next hearing will be in April. What will the judge decide? When I get that information, I will bring you an update. You all have a wonderful week. You have been listening to The Vault Excel. Thank you.